know the difference between polarization and partisanship? Do you know which is affecting our country more right now? Find out in this video.
In my mind, polarization is more shorthand for describing kind of an embracement of very different ideological and policy differences. So sort of like without regard to political party, but people have clustered around various views, and most views become ardent, and they become more fractious, and they become more noisy. And as they do, I think governance becomes more difficult. And, the bigger the divide, the farther we move from the center, the more difficult it is to find common ground and to govern. But I think where you're leading is when you were talking about parties, to me, that is more partisanship. And so sometimes it's like a distinction without a difference. You've probably heard that expression. But to the extent that the parties are coextensive with this kind of polarization, there's really not much difference. But parties will often go the party line. They'll vote the party line, even though there may be differences within the party, because they want the party to prevail for whatever the issue might be at that particular time. And to the extent that those, as I used the word hardened before, that they've hardened and they've become further from the center, the harder it is to find compromise and any kind of bipartisanship on important policy decisions. So to the extent that becomes more difficult, I do think that becomes threatening to democracy. And we've had division in the past, the 1980s that we talked about, yes. But I think that was less so than now. And I think that leadership on both sides of the aisle were better from a partisan standpoint, where people were prepared to reach across the aisle and get good things done. But we've had moments in our history which are a lot more fractious and contentious than what we're talking about right now. I mean, in the 1970 post-Vietnam era, that was big. The 1930s, between the First World War and the Second World War, and not to mention the Civil War. So those were all kind of remarkable periods in our history, and we should not lose sight of those. And it takes real kind of courage and strength of leadership to try to get back to the center. So we've got a lot of work to do.
When you talk about partisanship, we kind of use partisanship and polarization interchangeably, and they're both big problems.
Well, I mean, what's happened right now is that what we had now is polarization that's moved from the center to the right and to the left. And the greater that divide, the harder it is for us to move forward on really important issues. And again, I see polarization as being the embracement of strongly held views on ideological and policy issues, putting aside Republican and Democrat. Partisanship, though, I see as adherence to or partiality to one's party over other differences. So take something like impeachment, the Trump win. Well, it just went down party lines, and there were probably some people on the Republican Party who really had second thoughts about it, but it was the party first and then the other consequences. And we'll probably see that with some of the upcoming votes on the nominees for various cabinet offices, that, it'll probably be party over some second thoughts that some members may have about the qualifications of somebody to serve. So that is partisanship.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I see how you're making the difference between polarization as being strong ideological divides and partisanship as loyalty to just the party above other considerations.
When does polarization become based on identity rather than ideology? Find out in this next video.